let's talk about Black Widow. Hey there, FanScriptioneers. Now, anyone who knows me knows I love me some Black Widow. I loved her in the comics, I like Scarlett Johansson's portrayal, and I want to love her in the movies. But if ever there was a character for which the word wasted potential was invented for, it's her. Now, I'll be fair, you can extend that to her partner in crime, Hawkeye. These two were basically in a constant competition to see who the writers could hose more. I mean, they were basically the Avengers equivalent of the Professor and Marianne from Gilligan's Island. Did they get their own credit? Sure, eventually. But for the most part, they were... And the rest! I mean, Black Widow started off as Tony Stark's temp secretary. Joss Whedon gave her a fun breakout scene in Avengers, but by Age of Ultron, her biggest reveal was just, I can't have babies! Woo. Honestly, her best scenes were with Hulk, and I'm not even sure how, when, or why that started, or really whatever became of it. And then there's Hawkeye. In the first Avengers film, he spends most of the movie looking like he walked out of Seth Rogen's basement. I mean, the Avengers spent all that time trying to break Loki's spell, but really all he needed was a run to 7-Eleven. This guy has the munchies. Give him some f***ing Doritos. In Age of Ultron, his big reveal is, he has a family! Yay? Don't get me wrong, it made him kind of endearing, but that's not really much to chew on. Seriously, these were two characters who had no origin story, and whose only major character developments were can't have family and has family. At that rate, I was honestly thinking they were just gonna kill two birds with one stone and make Hawkeye pregnant, Junior style. No! Here, Natasha, problem solved. So imagine my shock, nay, sheer unhinged excitement, when I noticed that Black Widow had finally shown up to the party. I mean, here she is, working her ass off, keeping the lights on while everybody else reports to her. Cap is busy getting group therapy, the big Thorbowski is getting hammered, Captain Poochie got beamed back to her home planet or something. But there's Black Widow, de facto leader now of the Avengers. She's having conversations with Captain America. She's following Hawkeye's trail of destruction and having actual human emotions. And hey, she gets to redeem Hawkeye. And he, by the way, is now a raging psychopath who lost his family. Really, both of them just got a hell of a lot more interesting in 1 hour than they have in a dozen films. She even brainstorms with the gang and figures out a key plot point about 3 of the stones. I was feeling pretty good. I mean, they played the long game and it might have finally paid off. They won the Avengers Hunger Games. Black Widow might actually get to take over the team. Her true calling as a leader finally realized. And Hawkeye now has a real shot at a redemptive story arc. Because clearly after betraying his family values and going all Punisher, he'd have to sacrifice himself to get his family back. You know, the one true purpose he lost. Wouldn't that be interesting for such a bland, underutilized character? And then, Vormir happened. I'm not gonna lie, I lost my shit. Like, if you could see my face in the theater, it probably looked like one of those grumpy Queen Elizabeth II memes. I couldn't believe it. I mean, after all that, this is how it ends for her? And what about Hawkeye? Any real progress there? Oh, we're just gonna pretend that psycho shit never happened and he just gets his family back without a single consequence? Okay. Well, does she get a memorial? Oh, Hulk tosses a bench. Moving on. But hey, at least we could take the time to get all the ladies to pose for a calendar shot in the middle of a battle. Yay, you did the thing, you get woke points. We'll just conveniently forget that you shit on your only female character for a decade before you made her fridge herself. Yeah, you want points from me, Marvel? Just make that damn female Avengers movie. I'd watch it in a heartbeat. But this is just some pandering-ass bullshit after a bullshit move. And what kills me is it didn't have to be this way. The whole movie is literally telling us from the start that it's Hawkeye who's gonna bite it. It's the only answer that makes sense. His arc actually depends on it. All of Black Widow's Endgame setup depends on it. But then the rug gets pulled from under us. And where do we end up? Did Hawkeye grow? Well, he found out family is what keeps him going. He already knew that! Did Black Widow grow? Well, she's pushing up daisies. Does that count? Now, I know there was some discussion with the Russo brothers and the screenwriters about who to kill. And it was a woman, their visual effects supervisor, who suggested that it would be best to let Natasha have this moment. She argued it was Natasha's heroic moment to shine, and she shouldn't be robbed of it. I kind of get where they're coming from, and I respect their opinion, but I think it was a huge miscalculation. Why shelf your OG female character just when she's getting interesting? Is being a determined leader not as worthy? Does not having a blood-related family automatically discount her? Are the Avengers not a worthy family? Hell, even Hulk says they were the only family she ever had. And on the flip side, why take your bland male character, who you made briefly interesting by turning him into Snyder's Batman for a second, and return him to the status quo? One's dead, and one is right back where he was before. Their story hit a brick wall. So how do we fix this? Well, it's not too hard. We just flip the script. Yep, that's it. This will probably be one of the laziest fanscriptions I've ever done, because once you reverse it, the whole thing just starts making sense. So this isn't so much of a wholesale rewrite of an entire movie, but more of a commentary on why the alternate death is better. So let's get started. First, I really wouldn't change anything in the first quarter. I love her conversing with the holograms, I love her reaction when War Machine details Hawkeye's descent into madness, and I love her conversation with Captain America. I think that can be played up even more later. The next major change would be in the Yakuza scene. It'd start off the same, but I'd take it in a darker direction. Raise the stakes for the two of them. So Natasha meets Clint in the rain, and he senses her presence.
You shouldn't be here.
Neither should you.
I've got a job to do.
Is that what you're calling this? Killing all these people isn't gonna bring your family back. We found something. A chance. Maybe.
Don't
What?
give me hope.
I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you sooner.
She extends her hand, and Clint recoils. What if it works? Do you think I could look them in the eye again, after everything I've done?
They're your family, Clint.
I don't have a family, Natasha! They're gone!
Prove it.
Natasha, still holding the umbrella, pulls out a gun and aims it at him. What? You want me to fight you? You think after all this I'd even hesitate for him? Natasha cocks the gun and takes aim. Clint hesitates and then charges at her. She fires multiple rounds, which he dodges. Not a single shot lands. Then he does a flip, whips out his katana, and slices through the umbrella. The katana stops just short of her head. They remain in a stalemate. She lets the gun slide slowly from her hand.
You can't do it.
Clint finally drops the katana. It clangs against the wet pavement. How did you know?
Because I know I couldn't.
You never miss.
I've missed plenty over the years, and so have you. But we can make it right again.
Natasha extends her hand and he grabs it, much like in the original. So what is the takeaway here? They are physically and psychologically incapable of killing each other. Clint and Nat are like family, and while the Avengers are also her family, there's something special about her relationship with Clint, even more so than Bruce. For Clint's part, Natasha is the only family he has left. His real family is gone. This is it. He simply can't take her out, even in his deranged state. This is enough to get him back on track and accept the gamble that could very well be a fool's hope. All of this plays out in the seminal scene on Vormir. I'd keep everything the same. Their smiles on the space flight together, their bickering over who should go over, and even the battle for who gets to go over the cliff. The only difference is it's Clint who gets over the cliffside first, forcing Natasha to grab him by the hand. And this time, they're far enough from the cliffside that Clint can't just rappel off the rock wall like Natasha did in the original. Unless he wants to lop her hand off, they are stuck. As they dangle over the ledge together, they exchange the following dialogue.
Damn you! Clint, why?
Because I know I couldn't do it.
And what makes you think I can?
Because you're stronger than me, Natasha. Because you had hope when I had none.
I can't let you go. I won't.
You will, because you've got a job to do. Natasha, you never miss. Hit your target.
Your family.
Our family. Watch over them. Give them hope.
Hope.
Clint nods and smiles as if to say, do it. Natasha hesitates and grimaces. She closes her eyes, unleashes a primordial cry, and lets go. Clint falls, content, as she watches with unrestrained grief. As he disappears, she hugs the cable holding her up, eyes closed. When she awakes, she's in the water, the Infinity Stone in her hand. So what have we done here? Well, in this version, Clint admits that he lost his way, lost hope, but Natasha never did. He recognizes the strength in her and is gambling she'll stay true to form. So yes, this is Hawkeye's redemption, but it's also a tacit admission that his weakness is why he has to go, because if the roles were reversed, he couldn't do it. How do I know he couldn't do it? Because he didn't do it in the original. She made the choice for him. But in this version's psychology, he already lost faith once. He has no family left but her. Now think about that. He has nothing left. He became a monster. Yeah, he was operating on True Lies logic.
Yeah, but they were all bad.
But the movie sure seems to think that this was beyond the pale. I mean, War Machine won't even explain what he did, so it's got to be some pretty medieval shit. Now, after all that, he's being asked to sacrifice the last shred of family he has left, the one person who gave him a shred of hope. The stance I'm taking is, he can't do it. He's too broken. But she can. She's stronger. And that's the important thing about this scene. They're stuck. It still has to be her decision to let him go. To know that even if she gets the rest of the Avengers back, she'll still have lost family. Family that will be gone forever. This puts them on equal footing and doesn't diminish her own moment. She makes the sacrifice because she has the strength to do it. I feel like this preserves the idea that the Russo's visual effects supervisor talked about. Don't rob her of this moment. At the same time, though, it closes Hawkeye's storyline in a way that makes sense. It gives his psychotic killing spree a sense of purpose. He needs to redeem himself, otherwise that detour was pointless. And you know what else this switch-up does? It makes the pacing of the funeral scene less problematic. 'Cause, let's be honest, it's Hawkeye. He's not the one and only female Avenger. His character development was even more sparse. Hell, he left for 5 years. His connection to the gang just wasn't as strong on a narrative level. So you can move past this without it feeling as awkward and rushed as it did with Black Widow. As for the brief memorial, I think things would run pretty much the same. All I'd add is a scene where Natasha says,
If this works, what am I gonna say to his family?
It's at that moment that Hulk, seeing how crushed Natasha is, flips out and tosses the bench. Hell, I'd have him go even more overboard. And the sight of this only makes Natasha feel worse. Remember, she's supposed to be Bruce's calming presence. Bruce finally senses this and settles down before trying to console her, but she pushes him away and storms off. I then cut to a scene in the Avengers HQ, one of those classic superhero costume rooms or something. Natasha is sitting knees bent against the wall. Above her is one of Hawkeye's old costumes encased in glass. She's holding one of his arrows, staring at it. It's then that Steve Rogers walks in.
Is it safe to come in?
Don't worry, there's no peanut butter sandwiches around.
That arrow looks like it could do some damage.
Only if it hits its target.
She pauses and laughs to herself. With a huff, she stands up and turns around to face Hawkeye's costume.
I used to come in here after he left. Stare at his stuff and dream of the old days, when we were one big happy family. Pathetic.
I don't think so.
I do.
I get that you're upset. We all are.
We? Steve, I killed him.
No, Thanos killed him. He forced your hand. You may have saved billions of lives.
Then why do I feel this way? Is this what it's like? Because if it is, maybe I would have been better off in Russia, in the Red Room.
You don't mean that.
I never realized what we had until Thanos took it from us. From me. And now Clint is gone, and there's no going back. We'll never be the same. And I did that. Me!
With a loud grunt, Natasha flips around and flings the arrow through the glass costume case like a long dart. The glass shatters as the arrow hits its mark square in the Hawkeye mannequin's chest. She laughs and wipes away a tear.
I never miss.
Natasha.
And here we are, and we're so close, and I've never felt so alone. In the deepest, darkest parts of my past, I have never felt this alone. And now it's just hitting me. I'm somehow supposed to be responsible for all these people when I couldn't even bring him back? I'm a fraud, Steve. You want to know what I've been doing for the past 5 years? Making stuff up as I go.
then congratulations. You just figured out something I wish I had a long time ago. See, that's the thing about family. For most people, they're easy to come by. We're born into it or stumble into it. But the real trick is keeping it together, raising it, molding it, turning it into something special. Tony and I were never really very good at that, and yet here we are, working together. Of course, it helps. There's a roof over our head, full of brothers and sisters that have our back. Guess somebody kept the lights on, and whoever they were...
Steve removes the arrow from the mannequin and puts it in Natasha's hand.
I owe them a sandwich.
Steve smiles briefly and walks out. Natasha stares at the arrow. She puts it softly in Hawkeye's quiver. Behind her, Bruce walks in.
Listen, Nat, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about earlier. I realized you might have needed time.
Bruce. Stop. I'm all right.
Well, if you need to talk...
I'm done talking. I'm done crying. If the whole damn universe wants a piece of me, they're gonna have to fight for it. Come on, we've got a job to do.
And this is the scene I think we needed since Age of Ultron. I'm not against Black Widow to a certain degree being defined by her trauma, but at some point the character needs to push past that. This is why I was excited by Endgame's first half. I thought we were finally moving to this point. Instead, we got halfway there, and then, whoopsie! So after that, I think the big fight with Thanos would go mostly the same. I mean, you can insert Black Widow anywhere that Hawkeye was. Just replace bow and arrow with guns, rinse and repeat. Hell, the whole Superwoman team-up might make more sense if Black Widow was somehow coordinating them. Just, don't pause for a photo op. That was ridiculous. Let them fight like they're in a real battle. The last major changes would all take place after Tony's memorial. Instead of Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, I'd have Black Widow and Hawkeye's daughter Leela. Now, Leela would be some distance away from Tony's house, practicing archery by the lake. She's showing Tony's little girl Morgan the basics, aiming her bow at a chopped tree trunk.
Now step away, okay? See? You just get your stance, aim, and...
She lets the arrow go and misses the tree trunk, landing in the lake. Morgan looks confused.
Is it supposed to do that?
Leela sighs and Natasha walks up from behind.
Your father never missed.
I wish I had that problem.
You will.
Natasha kneels down to Morgan.
Hey, sweetheart. Can I talk to her for a bit?
Morgan runs off towards Happy Hogan, who's walking out of the house. She slams into his leg.
Whoa! Hey, kiddo, what's up?
They're talking grown-up stuff.
Well, adults do that. Come on, we'll talk.
He picks her up and heads for the porch. We then cut back to Natasha and Leela staring out over the lake.
I wish I could tell him that we did it. That we won.
He knows.
Natasha nods at her, and Leela stares back over the lake.
What was he like after we were gone?
He was very lost without you. But in the end, you were what brought him back. That hope.
Natasha trails off, searching for words.
I wish I could have been there to say goodbye, to tell him thanks.
He knows.
Leela nods back.
Your mother says you're heading out?
Yeah, we don't know if we're staying in Missouri. Too many memories.
If there's anything you or your family ever need, our door is always open. Don't be a stranger.
I'll visit if you visit. Someone has to teach me to shoot straight.
You'll get it.
How do you know?
'Cause he did.
Natasha puts her arm on Leela's shoulder.
No matter where you go, you'll always have a home here.
Natasha walks away. Leela turns and shouts at her.
Wait! One last thing. My dad. There's something in his past. It's bothering me.
A look of worry flashes over Natasha's face.
Yes?
What the heck happened in Budapest?
Natasha smiles.
We'll save that for another day.
As Natasha leaves, Leela turns back towards the target. She pulls the bowstring back. For a second, we see Hawkeye in a flash cut standing right next to her. She turns as if she felt his presence. There's no one there. She pulls the bowstring back again and takes aim. The arrow hits its mark. Bullseye. Leela smiles. We then cut back to Morgan and Happy on the porch. After that, I think the only thing I'd add is Black Widow's presence when Captain America goes back in time. I'd have him meet her there by the machine, case in hand. They'd exchange a glance.
Natasha,
Steve, I just want to say thank you for everything.
you're never alone. None of us are.
Best of luck.
Steve turns towards the machine and then stops.
Oh,
He reaches into a satchel and pulls out a peanut butter sandwich. He hands it to her.
What's this?
something I owe you.
He winks and walks into the machine. Much like in the original, Hulk can't bring Captain America back. As he's fretting over it, I'd have Natasha pat Bruce on the arm and tell him not to worry about it. Bruce doesn't get it and keeps flipping the switches. Then Natasha walks off. She stares at the sandwich and grins slyly, sighing. As she exits in the background, Bucky spots Steve out on the bench. So the idea is both Natasha and Bucky were probably in the know about what was going to happen. The sandwich, in his own goofy way, was Cap's final passing of the torch. And there you have it. In a script that ran over 3 hours long, these were very minor changes. But in flipping the switch, it creates a different dynamic. Is it as surprising? No. But what is the point of subverting expectations if it makes no narrative sense? Predictable can be satisfying when it properly addresses the character's motivations, internal conflict, and story arc. Yes, we know Hawkeye is going over the cliff, but it's the effect it has on Black Widow that sells it. The obvious redemption arc that was so broadcasted with Clint's descent into madness is now fulfilled, and Natasha's dogged determination gets its own payoff. Neither arc feels like wasted potential, and neither arc comes without consequences. Each character sacrifices something. Clint doesn't get off scot-free after devolving into a mass-murdering vigilante, and Natasha never gets her whole family back. She's forced to move on from her trauma and accept responsibility for the family that's left. No easy task after losing Clint, the dead father of another family she's now tasked with protecting. And the beauty of it is, no one character gets screwed. Black Widow could still have her origin movie, now framed within a plot where she tries to keep the Avengers together in the post-blip world. Imagine her trying to deal with the pressures of maintaining this team while ruminating on her own rotten upbringing in Russia. And the story wouldn't be over for Hawkeye either. Imagine a television show framed like Godfather Part 2, where Leela trains to become the next Hawkeye while uncovering her own father's shady past. Flashbacks could show Clint's origin, family life, and descent into madness. That would bookend nicely with Leela's story. What would her reaction be? Would she turn dark? Feel betrayed that Natasha pulled an Obi-Wan lie of omission? How would Natasha react to Leela going down the road her father did? Could she pull her back? Make her a part of the Avengers team? I can already hear some people complaining that Kate Bishop, the female Hawkeye, isn't Leela. But does it matter? The films have already changed so much. Could she not take Kate Bishop as an alter ego name? Certainly it would tie the theme of family together, forever connecting Clint and Natasha, even after Endgame. And perhaps fleshing out their dual origins would make the earlier films a more satisfying experience. Because even with the changes I made, we're still at square one. We have no idea where these people came from. And that's a problem. It's the same mistake Captain Marvel made by telling its story backwards. And don't think it wasn't lost on me that Natasha got tossed off a cliff after we were dealt a bland female empowerment film that forgot to give us any character. A full year after DC made Wonder Woman. So yeah, I think this would have been the better way to go about it. The legacies of Black Widow and Hawkeye live on. Yes, Hawkeye is dead, but his arc was over the second they turned him into a monster. Where do you go after that? Oh, he gets his family back. Okay, that's a fairy tale ending. It does nothing for his character. Black Widow's death, meanwhile, hinges on an origin story not even filmed yet. That's just sloppy storytelling, and I have doubts it's going to make Endgame any better. So we'll find out she has red on her ledger. Well, now Hawkeye does too, so none of it adds up. This way, Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner can give us more performances, and the Avengers' central theme, family, stays front and center. Because if it's anything this series was trying to tell us, it's that finding a family is the easy part. It's keeping that family together that's hard. Nick Fury put this family together, and in many ways maybe he had the easy job. But to persevere through strife and hardship, That's where the heroes show their true colors. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. And if you want to hear more thoughts on the subject, check out our Fanscription podcast. Leave us a comment and let us know what you would have done differently.